taking the floor. You spoke for more than 3 minutes, so I don't think it would be fair to. It should have been done earlier. Thank you. Yes, Honorable Member for Jara East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the floor. I rise to drum of support for the motion earlier presented by the mover with regards to the appointment of these two refined gentlemen. Madam Speaker, going through their CVs, one is definitely impressed by virtue of its colorfulness. The CVs of this, Madam Speaker, the duo, are quite impressive and colorful. And Madam Speaker, I have no qualms with regards to their appointment to their various noble offices. Madam Speaker, what they have done for this country speaks for itself. As the old adage, has it, that action speaks louder than words. Madam Speaker, Merces Ndao and Diba are household names in the Gambia. Madam Speaker, Mr. Ndao has served this country with distinction. During my formative years as a child, when I was in my teen, I used to hear this gentleman's name. When he was the commander of the Gambia National Army, he served with distinction. And as a result, his name becomes a household name throughout the Gambia. I could remember very well when the Gambia Armed Forces was in its formative stages. This man was there trying to build up the fledgling army, and he did extremely well in building the army to where it is, Madam Speaker. I think it is no doubt that people who have served faithfully, diligently, their country with distinction are considered for such prestigious positions. Madam Speaker, when you come to Mr. Yusuf Diba, he was a consummate civil servant, a patriot in his own right, and he also served diligently. And both men are deeply rooted in the Gambia. They have served faithfully. And I want to thank them for having been considered to serve the Gambian people. Madam Speaker, I just want to highlight some what I consider as anomalies. Madam Speaker, when people are asked to go to Parliament for confirmation hearing or what you call it, it is done for a reason. Madam Speaker, if you go to our standing orders 114, it says for scrutiny. And it goes without saying, there has to be an article of evidence. I have no qualms with their standing. They are gentlemen par excellence. But Madam Speaker, if we are going to consider nominees or appointees, I think if you have seen their CV, it is not enough to say, I have attended St. Augustine High School, University of Cambridge, University of London. This has to be accompanied with evidence, certificates. I could remember vividly when we are considering the first nominee for the portfolio of Ombudsman in the person of Babukar A. Sware. He presented to this August Assembly a comprehensive CV with hard copies of certificates, the schools he attended, the courses, because it will help in attesting to the certificates he claimed to have earned. These two refined gentlemen, they have done extremely well. But I have not seen, yes, they attended prestigious institutions, but I have not seen the hard copy certificates. And Parliament is about scrutiny. And we are human beings. That's why we are considered as not infallible. If you want to make an inquiry as to whether what is before us in terms of their impressive resume, the schools they claim to have attended, where do we stand? But if you have certificates, hard copies, that will serve as an article of evidence. And I believe fervently in this August Assembly, evidence must always precede decision. That's my detached opinion. That's what we are called a parliament. Evidence must always precede decision. Evidence must always precede decision. That's very key. Because that's the time we can bank on to say, yes, Mr. X or Mr. Y is well grounded in this domain. Because there is evidence to produce. But not to say he attended University of London, University of Cambridge. Yes, they may be prestigious universities. I have no doubt. But the critic in me is not comfortable. And I would like the mover to tell me, I know it could be an oversight, but they should have been accompanied with hard copy certificates. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Honorable Member for Serekunda. Serekunda, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are not dealing with an ordinary institution. This is in fact the key institution for defending the sovereignty of this land. And that is precisely the reason why the Constitution has given it the focus it deserves. We are informed of the need to equip this force under Section 186, subsection 3, in order to maintain its capacity to perform the role of defense of the Gambia. Honorable Speaker, this institution, the Gambia Armed Forces, under Section 187, is given two fundamental functions. It is clear that it has a principal role to preserve and defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Gambia. To aid the civil authorities at their request in emergencies. We're talking about border controls. It is clearly stipulated in the Constitution that in terms of national disaster or emergencies, they could be mobilized to serve the national interest. To engage at the request of civil authorities in productive activities such as agriculture, engineering, health, and education for the development of the Gambia, which means that they can build up an engineer corps to be building educational institutions, bridges, causeways, and anything imaginable. And Honorable Speaker, armies now in the world are transformed into productive institutions that conduct research, build technology, and in many instances serve as the core facilitation of industrialization in many countries in the world today. And here the Constitution is providing for that capacity to grow to that level. Honorable Speaker, subsection 2 move into what I will call, ignore the language, civilianization of the armed forces, so that it will not just be seen as a tool, as a killing machine, but it will be seen as human beings serving a particular purpose. And then under subsection 2, they are supposed to assist in building a national youth service and provide them in training, that the same armed forces shall establish training programs for their members at all levels to equip them with skills and trades, to ensure that the programs that they develop, there can even be secondment in order to prepare them for civilian life. That they should not just be kept there and used just like they are there to carry weapons, but that we must prepare when they move out of the force. Honorable Speaker, it says under subsection C, there shall be established an army reserve. Imagine, Honorable Speaker, people who just protect, and ultimately you move out of the force and you have nothing else to look back to, no community to belong to. The army, because it trains the person to be able to use a weapon, cannot lose control of that individual. Therefore, the army becomes a home where the person belongs to a reserve, can be called upon in times of emergency or anything to come and add force to be able to achieve aims. So that community must be made. These are fundamental objectives of the Army, Honorable Speaker. So in that sense, we are told that there is an Armed Forces Council that has been dormant. And now the objective is to activate it. We are being asked to carry out our constitutional duty under Section 189. We are very clearly informed, and we can see it in the Constitution, that there is official representation in the Armed Forces Council, but there is also unofficial representation. And the unofficial representation constitutes 2 persons who will be appointed by the President and confirmed by this National Assembly, because they do not belong to official positions in the Council. That is why scrutiny by us is important, because these are people going in to an institution as outsiders. And that's why the scrutiny is so fundamental. Honorable Speaker, we must look at what this Armed Forces Council is supposed to do. First of all, under Section 188, we are told that subject to the authority and direction of the President and of the Armed Forces Council, the Chief of Defense Staff shall be responsible for operations. So we're seeing here civilian control of the military. The President, the first civilian, but now the Armed Forces Council, with these 2 people who are unofficially are not members of the Armed Forces, are now to take part in controlling the direction of the Army and their performance. That is the relevance here. Honorable Speaker, it is clear that it is this Armed Forces Council that will advise the President on policy under subsection 2 of Section 189. Advise the President on policy. We will also advise the President on promotion. We will advise the President also in terms of performance in making regulations. They will be making regulations. This is not an ordinary institution. And the regulations will assist in terms of control and administration of the armed forces, the issue of ranks and their promotion, conditions of service, the authority and powers of the commanders, the powers that must also be utilized to establish research and development in terms of the service itself. So essentially, and if you go to 190, section 190, in fact, this is where their powers become more crucial and fundamental for reshaping the armed forces and ensuring that whatever the President does is done in line with the interests of the country, not out of his own volition. Honorable Speaker, section 190 says that the President shall, after consulting the National Security Council, after consulting the National Security Council, it's mandatory for him to do so, appoint the Chief of Defense Staff, the Armed Forces Chief of Staff, and the commanders of the Army, etc. And if you look at subsection 2, subsection 3, the President may, after consulting the National Security Council, remove. There we can see that the President has absolute authority to do the removal, but here it is a may, and the may is after consulting the National Security Council. So in this sense, we can see that the appointment is where the Council must ensure that the right people are appointed. And here, the may in the removal, they may be consulted, they may not be consulted. But essentially, it is there that the President should, at all times, endeavor to do that consultation before removing the Armed Forces Council. So, the people who are appointed. So, in that respect, it gives the opportunity for element of scrutiny to know that what is being done is in the national interest. Honorable Speaker, I must therefore emphasize that those people who are to be appointed must be skilled in knowing the armed forces, in knowing how to facilitate its development in the areas that have already been mentioned. But they must also go further into issues of administration, issue of promotion, service rules. So we are talking about two dimensions here: operational issues and also management issues. And the two people brought before us are said to be competent on command and control issues of the armed forces, and we've seen their history. We've also been told that another person is experienced in management, to have gone to the level of even being a director as far as running the Management Development Institute. So you cannot go any further in terms of management, in terms of policy, in terms of planning, in terms of programming. So the competence is there. But as the member has just said, and as consultation was being done with the member who seconded the motion, the issue is not about the competence. The issue is about consistency in how this National Assembly intend to go in order to ensure that proper scrutiny is done and proper advice is received by the National Assembly in order to be able to make our decision. So ultimately, Honorable Speaker, it is my mind that we should give justice to why Section 114 of the Constitution is actually established. And if we all agree with that, then maybe ultimately a motion will be made to that effect. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 114 says that the Public Appointment Committee shall consist of the chairperson, etc., etc., but that it shall be the duty under paragraph 2 of the Public Appointment Committee to scrutinize, consider, and advise upon all appointments to a public office to be made by the executive and subject to the confirmation of the National Assembly. And so, if that is our language, our wish, well, I believe I don't need to express my mind in that regard, but it's left to the members who may ultimately consider whether in this instance, because of COVID-19, we may wish to alter our mind, but essentially the mind must be spoken for us to consider. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Woolly West. Yes, you are on the list, is it? Yes.
Well, is that a motion you make or what? Okay. I'm going to be very brief. I'm delighted because first, I know these individuals very well. Now, when he was going to school here, Gambia High School, I was teaching in Bakau. Our homes were pretty close. And my home was a point of convergence for students and others like them. And when he finished Gambia High School, he joined the Gambia Field Force. We still continued. My home was also a place of convergence. I know him very well. He's a very dignified person, a sober-minded person, an independent-minded person, intellectually very rewarding, and he is just the type of person that this council would need for its operations, particularly with the military experiences that he has. I have no doubt about him at all. I know him very, very well. For years, I have known him since he was going to school up to the time. I would say that I was also a mentor to him. I mentored him. So I know what type of person he is. His academic qualifications are not in doubt. They are indicated here, but I agree 100% with the Honorable Member for Jara East. The National Assembly makes decisions based on facts, not just like that. So for people like them, we need to be adequately informed because maybe there are many who are applying. There are many who want to be. So what is going to determine eventually is what their achievements are in terms of education, in terms of experience. So it is important that we are always armed factually to be able to make a decision here, which is, a decision made here should be unshakable. And it can only be unshakable if it is based on facts, concrete facts. With regard to Yusfa, same. I know him very well too. Even before he became a lecturer at the college, I knew him. When he was a lecturer at the college, I knew him. When he became a civil, I knew him. And it's delightful to discourse with him. He's a person of huge intellectual resource. And I have no doubt that he would be very, very useful on the council for which he is being considered. I thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you.
Observation, ma'am. Point of observation. Oh, observation, please.
You should have raised your tag while he was on his feet to make your observation.
Yeah. Now, what I'm saying is that it seems that the minds are really on bringing evidence based, and I also want to observe that this, if it's going to be referred to the two committees, Security and Defense and the Public Appointment Committee, to sit together to go through it and then report.
No, Madam Speaker, observation.
You've had your say. Let's allow others.
Exactly.
If anybody wants to move a formal motion, the choice is yours. Honorable Member for Lower Nyomi. Thank you. Honorable members to make use of that.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would wish to reiterate the points that were raised by the member for Serakunda in reference to Section 187. I had on many occasions stood here to cry over the exclusion of the armed forces not being engaged by the government in the production of agricultural needs for the nation. I hope the Council would have the vision to help in that direction, given the fact that we are importing rice almost every year to an astounding amount of money. If this amount could be, our most common word would be vibe to the armed forces, I'm sure they will be able to produce a lot of rice for the people, build roads. We start engaging the army. Let's not put them in air-conditioned rooms. Let's put them under the sun so that we start benefiting from the expertise of people like Yusuf Diba, Ndaunjai, and others. Let's challenge them. It is under the purview of the armed forces to train the National Youth Service, get them co-opted and then train so that it would be a wider force, because at this present moment a good number of the armed forces are discouraged, frustrated. Either they have spent a long time without promotion, or lack of consideration, and they've been working under very hard conditions which they have not seen any light at the end of the tunnel for the benefit of themselves and the nation. Let's start thinking otherwise. From holding guns to holding hose, from running trucks to running machines that will give us something that will be beneficial to the nation. Armed Forces Council, okay. We establish an Armed Forces Council, and that's the end. It should not be the end. As highlighted by the member of Serakunda, based on the provisions of Section 187, 186, they could go beyond that. Let anybody who is enlisted in the army tomorrow understand that you are not going to be in Bakau, you are not going to be in Yulu, but you will be up country there, helping to feed the people of the Gambia, rather than crisscrossing. Madam Speaker, that's my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
I have a motion, Honorable Speaker, to make.
Yeah. Under what section are you coming? Or
Yes.
What provision?
Yes, clause 53C of the standing order. Honorable Speaker, we are not doubting the experience that these individuals have, but actually we want to perform or have documents about what the Honorable Minister is actually telling us about these two individuals. As a result of that, I want to move a motion that under clause 53C, the debate be adjourned and the motion be referred to the relevant committee, that's Security and Defense Committee, to better scrutinize and request the Public Appointment Committee, to request the documents that are stipulated in the motion given by the Minister and better scrutinize and inform this Honorable Assembly. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Any seconder? Yes, Honorable Member for Upper Fuladu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
Moved and seconded that the debate be suspended and the motion be referred to the Public Appointments Committee for scrutiny and for them to report back to plenary. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no.
No. Division.
No, I will take a chance.
Division.
Let us take the votes properly. Those in favor, please, can you raise your tag so that we take the count? Or let me take another voice vote. Right? Okay. Those in favor, the motion is for the debate to be suspended. To be suspended and the motion referred to the Public Appointments Committee for them to report back to plenary. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those not in favor, please say no. No. Well, as I said, I don't want to take a chance. Let me take a vote. I'm being asked whether I can join, but some people can shout and others cannot shout. So it's safer. Let's take a vote, please. Thank you. I don't think there's any harm. Those in favor, just raise your constituency tags. Those in favor. We take from this side and from that side. No, Honorable, with all due respect, we've already announced the votes. I mean, to take the votes. The noes, please. Those not in favor. Those not in favor. Yes, of course, you have a right. Good. Thank you. The results are as follows. The ayes 27, the noes 7. So the ayes have it. The motion is carried and the debate is hereby suspended and the motion referred to the Public Appointments Committee for scrutiny. But in the meantime, please, Honorable Minister, can we have the relevant documents to the Office of the Clerk so that, thank you. Yes, you are released, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable members, you must have observed that as per our agenda, we were to consider 2 other items. But as of now, we still have not received anything from the Office of the Clerk has not received any documents for circulation to honorable members from the Ministry of Finance. And based on that fact, I would suggest that we adjourn this extraordinary session sine die, considering the fact that the next ordinary session is in June 15 and that FPAC will continue with the consultations and engagement of Ministry of Finance. I would therefore suggest that we adjourn the session sine die and allow the FPAC to proceed accordingly with finance. It was just by way of your information. And that, may I now put the question? Sorry, Honorable, please, can we have one meeting, please, 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 please? Central body, but please, can we have one meeting? Thank you. And on that note, I put the question, be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned, sine die. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. The Assembly now stands adjourned, sine die. And I thank you very much for your cooperation and understanding. Thank you. Please, can we, honorable members, please, can we have FPAC members briefly? FPAC, yes. Committee room number 1, please, FPAC. Thank you.
FPAC, committee room number 1.